we need to talk. Hello, welcome back to Deck13 Inside. This is our series where we want to talk about our games. And I know you clicked on this one specifically to learn about Atlas Fallen. Just give me a minute to get done with the formalities first. My name is Phil, I've been a couple of years with Deck13, and yes, I am the same person that did the Inside videos back then for Search 2, now with less weight, less hair, and obviously less funny. For each episode of Inside, we will invite amazing people from our team to speak about Atlas Fallen and their contributions to the game. So now, let's quickly slide to our creative director, Jan Klose, to speak about the gameplay of Atlas Fallen.
Atlas Fallen is something that's completely new for our studio. So we're trying to use what we had before with the Search 2, and we try to really go in a very different direction. But we want to keep some things. We want to keep the fast pacing. We want to keep the action, and we even want to increase it, improve it. So we have super cool agility in the game world. But what do we do with it? We want to use it not only for combat, but also for exploration. So a lot of the game is about agile movement, verticality, and exploration, and we have a big world where you can find things, different things everywhere. And this is what we really want to encourage the players. Use all this agility, use all this movement to explore, to find cool stuff, to really enter a very deep layered world. And yeah, play it your way, play it in your pacing, play it with the tools you like most. Everything in the game is about sand and sand magic, and a part of this are the enemies. The enemies are called sand wraiths, and they're also made of sand and some weird bone structures, and they have a lot of different ways to move, to shape shift, everything you can imagine when there's just no real physicality in there. And we still want to try to have them very impressive, very aggressive. As so the players need to find out with every enemy what's the best way to tackle that enemy, and we have like many different ways how you can attack the enemy, different weapons, different skills that you can use. So you can play very offensive, but we also have a lot of stuff where you can dash around the enemy, use a sand shield to block them. So yeah, I think the enemies come in a big variety. Also small enemies, more passive enemies, but also very big ones. And yeah, the bigger the enemies are, the bigger the reward is. And that, again, you can use for crafting and for changing the way you tackle the next enemy, actually. We have these so-called essence stones, which are basically abilities that you can implement, that you can get, and that you can also exchange and build a setup for you. And yeah, we have a large variety of those. So there is really a lot that you get from fighting, that you get from exploration, quest rewards, or that you have to craft, where you find crafting recipes and build them. And they will change the way you play. They make you faster, more agile, or give you more defense values, but they also give you lots of active skills that you can use in combat, where you can do like bigger punches, where you can do ranged attacks, and many more things, where you can really tailor the playstyle to how you want to experience the game. We really like to have people create what they want to play with and choose what they want to choose. So again, we'll have a character creator, but also in terms of skills, we have lots of things where you can play more offensive or more defensive, or like have better stats. There's different armors you can try out, and they have their pros and cons. And there's a lot of crafting in the game. So I would say there's a lot of player freedom in there, and you can really try to find your way of playing the game. What makes it really unique is this mix that we have, the super fast-paced action, the agility, which is also in the exploration, and all this put together in a sort of medieval fantasy world. But this fantasy world is something that you haven't seen before and has a very strong focus. I think building all these things together and exploring with much verticality, with also air dash, fighting abilities, stuff like that. I think if you put all this together, it's a very unique experience.
All right. So hopefully you now have a better understanding of the gameplay of Atlas Fallen. If you still have any question, anything that interests you, feel free to ask in the comments down below, and we will pick topics from there for future episodes. A couple of days ago I asked Twitter what they wanted to see, and all they said was gameplay, so hopefully this episode makes them happy already. And now we are going to jump to our art director, James, for a quick overview on the world of Atlas Fallen.
So the world of Atlas Fallen has been terraformed aggressively by the gods that once inhabited the lands. Humanity has learned to understand their new normal, work with their new surroundings with this terraforming state, but are constantly under threat from the Wraiths that roam the lands of Atlas Fallen. They have found ways to hide themselves to ensure their survival by going deep underground and creating bastions and safe havens, to even siding with the evil forces just to survive in the world of Atlas Fallen. As sand is a core topic for the entire game with functionality across everything, what we found was going down the desert route is an obvious and cool route to explore. However, how does sand interact with other elements or other biomes? How does sand affect a forest? How does terraforming a huge castle with sand magic, how does that then actually work into the structures? And so we've had a lot of fun trying to work out how to bring traditional, not only traditional biomes, but more interesting elements into the game and give them this sand spin. So you'll experience vast deserts to oases to dense forests to mountain ranges.
Gameplay, check. World, check. Now it's time to bring you up to speed on the premise and setting of the game. Let's hear it from our narrative designer Lila directly.
Actually, before the land of Atlas was devastated as it is right now, it was a pretty peaceful place full of magic, ruled over by gods. So gods and humans lived together. And at some point, gods thought that humans deserved the gift of magic wielding, and they could finally control a magic called essence. But as it often is with humans, they wanted more powers, they wanted more control, and gods started to be scared of how it could turn out. So they all thought about how they could control humans, and they all pretty much disagreed, which led to a war of gods. And Thelos, the main tyrant of our game, won the war, and their solution for all of this was to install a class system to keep everyone under control. Those lower class people are called the Unnamed because they actually do not have a real name other than their function in society, for example, cook or tracker. And those people's only goal is to gather and harvest essence, so this long lost magic that we talked about, of which they have lost all knowledge, by the way. So they are only there to harvest it and bring it back to the capital through caravans. And those caravans are supervised by guards as well, who make sure that everyone behaves. And of course we also have opposition, but those people were born into those positions, so it's hard for them to see better for themselves. But some of them yearn for change and are trying to organize a little resistance. And when our game starts, our hero will find themselves in this oppressive class system and will try to lead a rebellion to overturn this government.
And that should cover all the bases for today, at least for like a first rough overview. Feel free to comment down below what you're interested in. We will pick some topics and we will go more and more in depth for each topic with future episodes. It's almost time to say goodbye now, but I wanted to close this episode on a wholesome note. When I had James for the interview, at the end, sadly our camera died, so the video footage is gone, but I still got the audio track. And on that track, James was talking about what it was like for him to work with the people at Deck13. And I thought the way he talked about them is really wholesome, really nice. So I wanted to share that with you. So now, to close this episode out, here's James for you, and we see each other soon.
During the production and looking at where the studio is progressing from the Surge titles, one thing that really I find completely exhilarating is how we have these pretty high challenges and bars that we set ourselves. And I can rely on all of the teams within the company and within the studio. Everybody really rallies together to not only beat what we did previously as a studio with the Surge titles, but exceed what we're going to do now. And we're super excited for people to really look at Atlas Fallen and see how we've not only met those challenges, but exceeded them in every way we possibly can.